I didn't realize it at the time. That's when the primal mindset was born. That's when the primal mindset was born. That's when the primal mindset was born. This is the Primal Mindset. I am Chris Fontana. I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York. Before we get to today's show, I just want to give a shout out to a few of my sponsors. We got Proof No More, premier marketplace for all non-alcoholic craft beverages, consisting of non-alcoholic beers, wines, mocktails, spirits, mixes. Coming up on 5 years of sobriety, I enjoy a nice cold Lomza. It's alcohol-free lager-style beer. Check them out at proofnomore.com. Use code CF, no proof 10% off. Also, Eat Better Meals, food delivery service here on Long Island. Man, this is nutritious, delicious, packed with protein. I absolutely love this. The meals are already pre-made, no cooking involved. Very, very convenient. Check them out, eatbettermeals.com. Go Primal 25 gets you 25% off your first order. Go Primal 10% after that. So check them out. All right, let's get to today's show. Next guest is Adam Caplan. Guy sounds exactly like Bob Memory. If you don't know, you'll probably realize when he starts talking. He's been overseas fighting in Thailand. He knows what it's like to face adversity inside and outside the ring. He's a brand new father. He's a gym owner. He's a podcast host. Guy's funny as hell. So here we go. All right, man. What's going on, Adam?
Chris, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. Yeah, thank you for coming on. And yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Still here now, 30 years old. Married, just had my first son.
Nice, and, congrats.
That's where I reside. I'm in the gym right now, which I run my business out of, and I also record my podcast from. So it's a little bit of a one-stop shop.
Oh, awesome, man. How old your son?
He'll be 2 months. He's 2 months and 2 days.
Oh boy, yeah, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so it's I know, man. You're not sleeping much, are you?
You know what? It's not so bad for me. Shout out to my wife. She's chosen to do no formula, so I'm off the hook.
Nice. Yeah. So that's where you went to high school and everything?
I went to high school in the same place. My wife as well went. Grew up in the same neighborhood, etc. Everything has basically been based around here. The only time that I've really spent out of the country for a long period of time was about 7 months in Thailand. Otherwise, everything pretty much is either in Montreal, Quebec, or little bits and pieces around the world.
Cool. Thailand. Did you do any fighting over there?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was about 23 years old, I was in and out of university, not really sure about what I wanted to do, and got into martial arts at around 2006. And then I started Googling about Thailand and started coming across what they like to call training vacations. And essentially, you'd go out to Thailand, you'd pay a certain amount of money, you'd stay there for as long as you could, and they'll guarantee that you'll drop the weight and maybe even get a fight. And to me at the time, that sounded super appealing. I already had previous experience in boxing, etc. So I was like, I got some weight to lose. I got direction that I need to find. Let's go ahead and do this. So kind of left everything here, left school, left my job, left my girlfriend that we were dating for a long period of time and stayed together throughout it. And in those 7 months, was able to lose over 40 pounds, got in the ring, fought a guy in a Thai festival. Now, it's a long story, but essentially the first day I got there, they had signed sponsorship fighters. Okay, so Jeremy Kennedy, who fought in the UFC and Bellator, okay, that young boy at 22 years old was now sponsored by the gym called Team Quest Thailand. Yeah. And when I had pulled up there, I was around the same age as all of the guys, but didn't even know who they were or the fact that they were pro fighters. And I was just a regular guy, and we all hit it off. And the next thing you know, we're all riding shotgun on scooters over to the local stadium that's surrounded by a bunch of bars, with women that just basically want you to pay for beer and then pay for them and get the hell out of there. And in the middle of that is this octagon. And I know these guys for 3, 4 days, they already had been there for 3 weeks and they had fights lined up. We went there, we saw the fights. I was like, I'm in the right place for growth. This is going to be where I need to be. And, throughout that whole experience, I could go on forever about it. It was like, it was already crazy enough that my friends were fighting in these octagons or rings that were surrounded by bars. They ended up sending me to a village 30 minutes out from Chiang Mai. And they threw me in there in the ring against a Thai guy at a Thai festival in the middle of nowhere. And I was lucky. I ended up getting the win in the first round. And the rest is history.
Nice. How long did you stay there for to fight?
I stayed there for 4 months first. I came back for a few months, and then I went back again for another 3.5 months.
Oh, nice. How many fights total did you have there?
I fought twice there. The first one I was successful in the Thai festival, and then the second one, I had the stomach flu leading up to it, ate some bad sushi that had stayed out long at the street festival, which is a common tourist mistake. And basically 2 days before the fight, they still asked me if I wanted to take it. And I said, why not? I went on the elliptical. I ran a few sprints, blew out the lungs, and went in there. Didn't go my way. Taught me a lot, though. Taught me about preparation, but it also taught me about my courage. So, as much as it was a loss, I kind of was able to take a lot out of it because I was in the middle of nowhere, even though I was so comfortable in Thailand, but I was technically in the middle of nowhere. I was far from home. And I went in there and did one of the most brutal things. And in fact, it was also idiotic at the same time. But, we got it done.
Yeah, nice. And so coming back, what age did you come back for good? Where you pretty much done with Thailand?
That would be at around 24
Okay.
and a half or so. And what happened is that I had actually found a personal training course. I was speaking to an acquaintance of mine, and he told me that his girlfriend's brother was taking this course, and it wasn't a weekend thing. It was like a year-long thing. And through each semester, you gain different certifications. So I jumped all over it. And after not being successful in school at all, but having previous coaching history and being involved in sports and fitness for a long time, I knew I was in the right place. And it was a big deal to me when we had that 8 a.m. biomechanics class, and within the first 15 minutes, I already knew where I belonged. And from that point forward to where I am now has basically propelled me in the right direction.
Nice. So you took that personal training course. What came about of that? Is that when you started opening up your own gym or was training clients?
So basically, the course was a year long, and by the 9th month, I ended up knowing somebody who had owned a gym but was moving into corporate fitness and needed a junior trainer, you'll say. So I was in the right place at the right time. And even with 3 months to finish the program, I had already started working in the personal training field. So I started in corporate fitness, and the biggest thing for me is I was always around athletes. I was always watching sports. I was always coaching athletes. When I got into corporate fitness, I realized that my corrective conditioning certification would actually be my most important one. Realizing that these people have faulty movement patterns. Their mobility isn't on point. They're not able to touch their toes. They're not able to do wall slides because their shoulders are rolled forward and all of these things related to the posture. And then from there, that's when things really started to pick up as I hit my stride in corporate fitness.
Nice. Yeah, fucking posture is tough, man. I feel like I need to really fix mine with my shoulders.
You know what? I don't have the best posture either, but I do like to stand tall. But I
Yeah.
will say, Chris, you know better than anybody else. It just comes down to that voice in your head that tells you to sit up straight.
Yeah,
You
pretty
know,
much, man.
the
I feel
same
like
fucking the same voice that makes it. Can I swear?
no, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm from New York, dude, so don't worry about it.
Perfect. The same voice that's telling you keep fucking going is the same
Yeah.
voice that tells you stand up straight, bud. So
Yeah.
that's the secret to posture is that internal dialogue. And the sad part is that we constantly have to be talking to ourselves in order to get to where we need to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mindset is a big thing. And I feel like not only am I telling myself all day stand up straight, I mean, I'm telling myself shit types of shit all day, and that's just how you train your mind. It's like, when you train in your body, well, you're training in MMA. You don't get good from one day.
No, absolutely
It's
not.
some you got to keep doing.
100%. It's a long game. If you're looking to get into martial arts and get a quick ROI, that's not going to be the name of the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no quick anything that's worth getting better for. So that's just how it is, man. That's how it is with training the mind. Something you gotta do every day, and that's what I do, man. I tell myself shit all day. I write stuff down. I look at it. I have reminders going off of my phone. How type of person I need to be for that day. It's just your mind constantly sees shit. Eventually you can just start acting like that. And
100%.
that's how I like to train my mind. And as far as I feel like fitness, and I think we probably share the same thought on this. Is I think fitness is something that for a man anyways, man, you gain so much confidence from that, or any type of, especially with any type of like combat sports. And you said you played rugby in high school. So I feel like you were always doing something like physical like that to push yourself to show that. And I know, at what point did you, I know you said something about you didn't have a father figure growing up, or at what point did you lose him, or did, like, how did that happen? How'd that play out?
So basically, my parents got divorced when I was in about grade 5. So I was about, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10, whatever the case may be. And, a lot of yelling, no hitting, no abuse, nothing like that. But, a lot of animosity, a lot of thick energy, and a lot of yelling and a lot of negativity. And, I just didn't think that my dad was fit to, fill his role. And it was kind of my choice to disband the relationship. But, I kind of fast forward to it now at 30 years old, and it's like I'm surrounded by all these lovely women that are so nurturing and so, hyper aware, that sometimes you do realize that it's that male energy in the room, that calm, protective, securing energy that is really needed. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to set for myself to be in my household. And that's why I think even things like combat sports have been very important to me. Just knowing that if I needed to, I would be able to perhaps get out of some sticky situations.
Hmm.
Not going to be a world champion, didn't
Right.
say that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, think I walk confidently.
Right.
But not having that father figure is one of those things that I've realized that at the beginning I spent all of these years saying, like, I didn't care and I didn't care and I didn't care. But then you kind of turn around and you look at all of those years that go by and you're like, you know what, maybe I did care. But at the same time, when you grow up without a father figure, it teaches you a couple of things. And one of the things that it teaches you is that you got to be tough for yourself. Nobody's going to be tough for you. And at the same time, you're going to go through heartbreaks. You're going to get into fistfights. You're going to have scraps at school, whatever the case may be. You got to have your own back. When you don't have necessarily somebody to run home to, for some people that could cause like some form of anxiety. But for me,
Right.
I was always confident in my own skin that I didn't need that. But, I do have to say that I heard an interesting story, and I want to get your take on it. It's an Olympian, and he's the Italian track and field runner. His father's from Texas, and he couldn't win the big races. He would win all of, the smaller, big-time national races, but he wouldn't win the big time. And he always said, I don't understand. When I get on there, I get heavy legs. I can't run as fast when it comes to the big shows. And he sat down with a sports psychologist, and the sports psychologist started saying, so why don't you talk to me a little bit about your family history? Started talking about his father and how he never met him and he didn't know him, etc. She stops the session and she essentially goes, if you're not going to rekindle this relationship with your father, you're never going to be able to reach that gold podium. Why? Because you're holding on to something that is making your subconscious weigh your conscious down. And those legs don't feel as light, and you don't feel like a horse when you're ready to get out there, because deep down inside, you're holding on to something. And on the big time shows, that's when you need those people the most, is when it
Right.
really, really counts.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, I was kind of like, wow, that's you know
Yeah. It makes sense, and I think like for me that I mean that kind of ties into to me. I lost my father when I was only 13. Unfortunately he got cancer and passed away. But it really did not affect me until I was about, I went to college about 18 or so. So it kind of makes sense, like, because basically, through, I was the summer going into high school is when he passed. So, going into high school, I was still around my normal surroundings, my friends who I grew up with. I had uncles, I had, my mom who's great. She was there, so I kind of coasted through, the smaller races that you can say, through high school. But then facing adversity in college where I was, supposed to go to play baseball and it didn't work out. I didn't really I didn't go to class. I ended up drinking a lot, and was facing with that first, the first big race, the first adversity as a man, and he wasn't there, for me, and it just really kind of went downhill from there for a long time. So I mean, it kind of makes perfect sense, when my big race came, like I was getting weighed down and like I couldn't push through, and unfortunately, I turned to alcohol and to deal with a lot of depression and severe panic attacks for a long time. So um that story definitely resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It struck a chord in me as well. So I thought that I would share it with you.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, man. I like that a lot. And I mean, I think it's I always say those are my darkest days, trying to get over that anxiety and the depression, and being 300 pounds, because like you, I always played sports in high school. I was always an athlete. So to be that out of shape and just kind of look at myself and be like, man, I fucking hate you, man. Look at you. I never thought I would be here, in my 20s and coming up on 30 years old, what you are now. Had nothing for myself, wasn't married yet, and I kind of had to develop that mindset, like you said, when you kind of as a man, you have to get that by yourself, like, and I didn't have that confidence. That I mean, my father did instill that on a young age. I still remember growing up, him telling me, "Man, you can be whatever you want. Whatever you put your mind, you can be it." And I lost that along the way. And I had to find it again. I had to find it on my own. It was up to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I call it the primal mindset. And it was something that no matter what happened, I was gonna just fucking keep going. If I had a horrible I mean, I still remember the day where, I mean, I had many panic attacks where it felt like, I was basically dying. And it was 10 plus years of that. It was mental warfare in my head every fucking day. Um, so when I finally, figured it out, it was anxiety after going to a doctor, and then just being in the gym. I went on the treadmill. I couldn't even run like 5 minutes. Dude had a horrible attack that came. And I hit the button, walked off, went out of the gym crying, drove home, be like, I don't know how I'm gonna fucking get past this. And it was just something where I'm like, you know what? Fuck this, dude. I ran 5 minutes. I'm running 6 minutes tomorrow, man. And that was like the mindset I just kind of developed in, and I had to learn to trust my instincts, that no, I just have to keep going, because I think us, especially as men, dude, we're born with that instinct to not give up, to adapt to any situation, to persevere, man. It's in us, it's in our DNA. Quitting is learned. We learn that shit from whatever along the way, but I had to learn how to trust my instincts and be like, man, just keep fucking going. Just keep going. And eventually, slowly, I got better, bigger, stronger, faster, and slowly started to lose weight. The anxiety started to go away. The depression started to go away. Unfortunately, that the alcohol was still played a major role. Had one failed marriage. It was on the verge of another failed marriage. And finally, at 38 is when I was able to get sober. And then, sure enough, not too long after that, my first son was conceived and then born, and then my second one, and I got two young boys. So all the shit that I look back and I feel like I got cheated out in life, and I get to experience with them, and I get to teach them, And I always say those darkest days of my life, man, turned out to be my best because my mental strength is just so strong right now, where my definition of what hard is a lot different now than it was, back then when I was going through all that shit and I was able to push through.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a beautiful story, man. I appreciate you sharing that with me, especially, being able to rewrite the things that perhaps you felt like you were shorted of.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is redemption, but
Yeah.
redemption in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? Like usually
Yeah.
when we think of redemption, we think of smashing, we think of ripping through something, we think of pulling out that beast in us. But that type of redemption is a different one. It comes from the heart, it comes from the soul. It comes from the part about you that wants to be a good person, that wants to be a wholesome person, that wants to be a loving person. Not that reptilian side of us that we have where we could be very nasty, but, the complete opposite. And, God bless the kids for bringing that out in people.
Yeah.
And, that's why it's always important to, keep the cycle going because you let the good times roll that way. And, one of the worst things that I've ever seen is when people are shorted of something or a victim of something and then become that.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst things that could happen. So to hear that, Chris, you're turning that fucking boat around and going right to that private island, I love to hear that.
Yeah, man, I like that. Yeah, and it's funny that you said that word redemption because I was on a podcast, Joe Rinaldi, who you know.
Of course.
I was on his I think Pursue podcast way back, and he always asked like, what are you pursuing? And that was my word. I said redemption, and I
Yes,
think they were
sir.
a little taken back by it, and I said, and I kind of summed it up where it was like, dude, I don't really have regrets too much in life because everything, happened to put me to where I am today. But I do regret how I treated some people,
Sure.
even myself included, and so I was like, it was almost like I'm chasing redemption because, I have to be the best possible version of myself for not only myself, but for the people around me now, and I need to prove to myself that I can be that person that I always wanted to be. That person that I always wanted to be was already inside me. I just had to fucking trust it and let him out, man. And that's what I pretty much how I looked at it. And yeah, it's just funny that you use that word, man. It goes along perfectly with me.
Absolutely. And when people, like I said, when people think of redemption, it caught him off guard because you think of it in almost a negative manner.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
thing is that you were talking about redemption with yourself, maybe
Right.
the way you treated yourself, with the way that you treated people. When you have redemption against yourself, it might sound cruel or crazy when you have redemption against somebody else, but like the internal dialogue that goes on in some of our minds, it's a fucking war zone. So it is redemption. And when it's redemption with yourself, it just makes it a hell of a lot sweeter because for a fact you can control the situation, you can control the outcome, and you can control the result as long as you remain consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Absolutely. 100%, man. I love that. I think we definitely share the same thoughts and same mindset. And yeah, I'm definitely glad we connected. And so after high school, kind of to circle back to that, is that where you once you graduated and I guess did you play professionally at all rugby or try to play professionally at all rugby, or you kind of just were kind of in limbo, didn't know what to do, and kind of found the MMA?
So I played high school rugby. I played college level rugby.
Okay.
Was successful there. Won MVPs. I was second leading scorer, etc. And then from there, I went on to play provincial rugby. So like, let's just say I played for like the state of New York. You know what I'm saying? And then the
Yeah.
state of New York would then go play the state of Texas, and it would be like a state championship type of thing. So that's how it works in Canada. We have provinces instead of
Okay. Yeah.
states.
Yeah.
So I played for the province of Quebec and had a great time there with all of the guys. It was a great experience. We traveled a little bit in Canada, played some tough competition. And then from there, I had gotten in touch with a couple of American universities for me to go out there and play rugby. And then I was supposed to go to New England College on a scholarship, not a full ride, but a partial one, which was still good enough for rugby, considering at the time it's not an NCAA sport. And then from there, I tore my ACL, and that's where things started to get tricky, because if I didn't care much for school, but I had my sport, and now I didn't really have my sport, but I still had to go to school. And, that's when things started to become a little bit of a struggle. But in between that, I always found a way to stick my head into something so that I wouldn't be completely down in the dumps. Even if I didn't have a job, even if I wasn't loving school, I got into something like coaching rugby at my old high school. So that was something that I was doing. And then after I had coached my second year, then I went off to Thailand. So in between that was all of that rugby in and out of school. And then that coaching experience really turned things around. That was the prequel to me going to personal training school. I knew that I could control a room. I knew that I had a voice and an intensity and an insight, but also a love and a care to give to the athletes, and, which I now pass forward to my clients. And, we started off my first year. We went 3-3. It was a slow regular season, but I knew I had talent. I knew I had the best athletes in the school. We went through to the playoffs. We won the championship. We were happy pappy. The next year, we went in there. Those kids graduated. You could laugh when I say happy pappy. Then we went to the next. Then we went to the next year, and for me, what was important is that I look back at the athletes that I coached. Some of them went on to play Rugby Canada. They went on to play professional rugby in Houston. They went on to play in the Canadian Football League, NCAA, big-time athletes. So when I look back at it, I almost feel more honored now that I had coached them than I did back then. Because back then it was hella easy to coach them because they were superstars. You know what I'm saying? So for me, the coaching was a really big deal because I got to get in the heads of individuals that I once was. A high school kid who just wants to ball out on the field with his friends, maybe have a couple of parties on the weekend and get through high school. But in between that, I knew that I could make an impact. And in fact, I actually got a message from a former player at like 2:30 in the morning a couple of weeks ago. And the guy had just randomly said, dude, I just want to let you know that you believed in me to make the all-star team when nobody else did, and I made that team, and you told me shit that I remember to this day. And for the life of me, you can tell by now I've said a lot of things. I have no idea what I said to him. I don't remember what I said to him. But the fact that he brought that to me at 2:30 in the morning, I hate to make an intense situation funny. I don't know what he was on, but I appreciated the hell out of that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, that was the prequel to my coaching. Just, being able to be intense, being able to turn that on, but then at the same time, lighten the mood in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Just like I'm doing on the pod right now. It's how I like to interact on a day-to-day when I'm coaching people, because life is about moments. There are moments you have to be serious, and then there are moments you could make things a bit light, but the task always stays the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? Think about football coaches. These guys are yelling at those poor boys all fucking day. Okay, all day. But the second the coach has an opportunity to crack a joke and make the situation calmer, the players will jump all over it. Because they don't want to get chewed out.
Yeah. And I think it's, it makes it more coaches more relatable when they're like that. It shows a little bit more human, because of course they're gonna chew you out when you fuck up or you do something bad, or you're not trying hard enough or whatever it is. But man, they'll be right there to make you laugh, dude, and that's a good thing, and that's what gets players to respect the coaches as well. I think when they see that.
100%. You have to be human. The coaches that have always played the authority role have, tried to create that 6 degrees of separation and that hierarchy. When it's intentional, it doesn't come off as authentic.
Right.
You set that hierarchy or that authority through, one of the most important words in the dictionary, and that's respect. If there's no respect right off the get-go, I don't care if you're higher or lower than me, as Mr. Rubio said on the last show, want,
Yeah.
you know, you just get
Yeah.
tuned out. You just
Yeah.
get tuned out, you know what I'm saying? So you
That's
just
true.
have to be relatable with them, but you got to get that respect right out the gate. You
Yeah.
know, and it's the same with the clients when you're teaching them the nutrition, when you're teaching them the reason why they should do their rehabilitation or the corrective conditioning in between training days. All of these things, these good habits you're trying to teach them, drink more water, eat more leafy greens, etc. The yahers and the K'ers, it's like, it's not and it's not K. It's, hey, I appreciate that. Thanks for the advice because you give a fuck about my well-being, and I'm going to do something with it. And if I don't, I at least want to take what you said into consideration with, you know, at least an attempt or some respect. And, you know, as a personal trainer, you got to be a little bit softer these days. But as a rugby coach, I was able to get that point off right out the gate. I'm going to make you laugh, but I could make you cry. So let's find that perfect balance. You know what I mean? Because I don't, you know, that's what it is. You got to level with them.
Yeah. So what? So the gym you're in now, that's your gym? You own it?
Yeah, it's literally in my house. I have a 2-car garage. I have my gym here. My clients come in and out. And then in between that, you know, I'll do a little bit of podcasting. And the reason why I did that is, Chris, is because, you know, in Canada, it got a little crazy during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it got really crazy. And, you know, we were working in gyms with the doors locked, letting people in through the back door. I felt like a drug dealer, but at the same time, I do sell drugs. I sell happy drugs.
There you go.
You know, when you leave here, you're happier than when you walked in. I guarantee you that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's exercise. Exercise is the happiest drug anybody could take. So we were working basically with the doors locked, and essentially, to me, it started getting to a point where I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't know where the direction of the country was going. And, you know, it lasted a lot longer in the end than most of us would have liked. But with that, I turned to my wife and I said, what do you think about me building a gym in the house? I said, none of us are going to park in the garage anyways. Let me build the gym in here. In between clients, you know, we'll be able to take care of the kids while you eventually go back to work, this and that. And, you know, the next thing you know, these guys are coming in here, ripping my walls down and, you know, got my squat rack behind me, got my barbells, all my punching bags. This is a punching bag. I got a punching bag there. You know, people come in and out. We get our sweat on. We laugh. We cry. And we move forward.
Nice, man. So what about the podcast? Yeah, I know you kind of changed it up a little bit. You were into MMA podcast in the beginning, and now it's a little bit different. Right.
Exactly. Like, as you could see already, like I said before, you know, I could go on these tangents and I could, you know, have those moments of inspiration, but then that comedic relief. And also, you know, I have a wealth of knowledge in MMA and boxing. So I kind of looked at it and I said, look, there are fights every weekend that I could sit and talk about, or I could talk about the ones that really make my heart race, really will make the fans, you know, the fights that the fans are really caring about. And in between that, I could show more sides of myself with the motivation, the ambition, a little bit of fitness and nutrition. And then on top of that, I also do now Q&As. So every week I'll go, hey, everybody, I'll be recording on Tuesday. Send me your questions related to fight, fitness, and motivation. And I've been doing it for a couple of episodes now, and I've just been so lucky to have great questions asked to me, where I've been fortunate enough to go on 40-minute podcasts and only answer people's questions. Nice. And I've only done about 15 podcasts, but I love this shit.
Yeah.
Like you know, barbells and running and weights and sweating and I've been doing that for like a long time. I'm not even right now currently, I'm not even shy to say it, I'm not even in my best form. But I've done it for so long. But this podcasting game, this to me has brought another level to me. This is, you know, I get to come on here and express my thoughts, show different sides of myself, and be vulnerable, okay? And, you know, one of the things that I liked about your last episode is how you talked about being strong through being vulnerable.
Right.
And that's something that I've done for a very long time. You know, I've never been shy to express myself. I've always been called a little bit sensitive. I've always been the one where it's like, dude, like, relax, man, sleep on it, you'll be all good. No,
Yeah.
like, I'm feeling this, I'm telling it to you now. And when podcasting came about, I remember I did my first episode, and Sugar Sean was fighting. You know Sean O'Malley?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
My man. So Sean O'Malley was fighting Eddie Wineland. And I
yeah.
remember I broke down the fight. And the moment for me that it clicked was my wife's colleague's husband was in the kitchen, and he was eating his cereal, and his girl walked in, and she was like, who the hell are you listening to? Like, who's this guy like ranting about, like, who the fuck is this guy? And she's like, I'm listening to Adam Caplan, Karen's husband. And she's like, okay, and what do you think? She's like, I don't know. He sounds really fucking good, though. Saturday happens. Everything I said happened.
Yeah.
He goes, his girl calls mine and goes, Matthew's freaking out. He's watching the fights, and everything Adam said fucking happened. And then from there, I was just like, boom, let's do this, baby.
Yeah.
And put out a couple episodes on the unanimous decision. Wasn't in love with the name, but I had so much fun. I was sitting in my garage before any of this was renovated. It was a shithole. I was on my mic. Nothing was going on. I was in my PJs, and I would do solos. I would record with people for 2-3 hours at a time. I had a couple of guys, their girlfriends thought they were on the phone with some girl or something. They didn't know what was going on, but we were rapping about MMA forever.
Yeah.
And then from there took that break. And then when it was time to launch AC Radio, I knew that I had to invest money into it. I knew I had to get the cameras, get the lighting, get all of the audio interface, etc., and hit the ground running.
Nice.
And the podcasting game, I've done some cool things, but the podcasting game is one of those things that you kind of feel like you could build a legacy. Like Chris, I'll put it to you like this, man. And like, I say this with respect. I'm going to preface this. If the Go Primal podcast was your dad's and he had 20 to 30 episodes recorded, you would have those episodes to watch and cherish for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you're building that for your lineage, for your dynasty, for your kids. And it doesn't fucking matter if you get 10 views, 50 views, 100 views, 100,000 views. You have something on here now for the rest of your life that your name is on it for life. You know, you're like I'm not going to be that guy. This is like, how the Beatles have their album, how Lil Wayne has his album, how Aerosmith has his album. This is our album.
Yeah.
And that sounds too crazy, and people are going to be like, all right, man, relax, dude. But when it means that much to you, you'll put it on the fucking table and stamp it like that.
Hell
and
yeah, man. I love that.
It's that legacy. It's that dynasty. It's that this is me. And whether it got 20 views or 100 views or 1 million views, dude, this is me. And I'll give you a famous line I've said on AC Radio. When we do this shit, we put our balls on the fucking table. And that's exactly what we're doing. That's a famous one.
Yeah.
I use that a couple times on the show.
Nice, dude. I think that's definitely something that I think every man be like, fuck yeah, put our balls on the table. Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? And, with the utmost respect, I don't want to bring up, your late father, etc. But that to me is
I get it.
Perfect reason why it's so worth it for us to be doing these things. Because there's so many people on the big scale that we love to listen to, the Rogans, the this ones and that ones, you know what I'm saying? Jocko Willink, etc.
Yeah.
But like, dude, it's these types of podcasts that keep the rest of it going.
Yeah. And it's funny, man. You said that because that's, and I kind of refer, to that here and there. But like, I'm building an empire for my boys, and that's what it is, dude. It's legacy, and unfortunately, my dad passed. It was like, 1993 when you only had those old school video cassettes, because so I don't have any really home movies to see of him, or to be honest, I haven't heard his voice in, probably, close to 30 years now. So, this is hopefully something that my boys are always going to have with them. God willing, I'll be here for a long time with them, but, at least they got something that they can look and be, yeah, that's my dad, and that's what I'm trying to build.
Exactly. And there's that crazy guy that he interviewed that said to put his balls on the table.
Yeah. So where can people find your podcast?
So you could find me on YouTube at AC Radio.
Okay.
You could find me on YouTube and Apple Podcast, AC Radio as well. You could find me on Instagram at Adam Caplan 13 or at the AC Radio. And, I'm available on all platforms. We got Fight Fitness with a sprinkle of motivation. And, I say a sprinkle, but let's be real here. It's more than a heap.
Yeah.
And, Chris, I appreciate you for having me on. You're doing the right thing. I like the Go Primal brand, and I like how you call it your own brand. I like the pride that you have in your voice when you say it. The most important thing is that, we just keep doing that thing that makes us feel whole. You know what I'm saying? And that's my message for everybody is you got to keep doing those things that make you feel whole. And, growing up, it's hard. You're in school, you're doing all of these things that you don't like, but along the way you experience all these great things that you love and that you really care for and that you want to always be in your life. And those things start becoming your foundation. They become some of your pillars. You know what I mean? And when the shit hits the fan, you always go back to your pillars. Your family, your hobbies, the things that make you feel whole. If you're religious, I'm sure that's another pillar too. But the most important thing is that you always got to do what makes you feel whole. The Go Primal podcast, the Go Primal Mindset is your baby and your brand. And I know all about that. And I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, man. I do appreciate that. And yeah, so I always say, man, never settle. Be the best for the people that need you most. And I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate, what you just said. And, man, I look forward to, staying in touch with you and keep going with this, maybe back and forth going on each other's podcast and throwing our nuts on the table, man. Let's go.
That's it, baby. Never satisfied, always moving forward.
Yeah, there you go, man. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. I'll definitely talk to you soon.
You got it.
All right, man.